underway in the Commonwealth for several key races. Polls are open for voters to decide the state's next governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, House of Delegates, and local offices across the Commonwealth. People across the country also have their eyes on the election to see if the results show momentum towards one of the parties or the other heading into next year's midterm elections, which will decide the balance of power in Congress. To talk more about the state of the race, let's bring in our guest political analyst, Luke Ball, who will be joining us later here in studio tonight as we get those final results. But Luke, it's 3 p.m. We got a few hours left before the polls close. A first check of the pulse in the Commonwealth.
Yes, stay in line, keep voting, don't give up. Make sure that you go and make your voice heard, even if it's after work, even if you have to stand in line. This is crucial. The joke amongst political consultants is every election always comes down to turnout, but especially in this off year, you know, I'm going to hear a lot of people say this is a referendum on Donald Trump or this is a referendum on the majority in Congress. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that ultimately it's going to come down to how the candidates have performed over the last few weeks. Right now, I think there's a lot of frustration generally at Washington, not necessarily at one party in particular. There's polls all over the place. So I, as a Republican strategist, am hopeful that the Republican ticket does exceedingly well, but we're going to have to see how the turnout ends in the evening and just make sure that we stay in line and vote and make sure that we get our voices heard.
And to that point, we've seen record-breaking numbers of early voting turnout already in Northern Virginia. A lot of votes had already been cast, especially in Northern Virginia, before a lot of the conversation surrounding Jay Jones and the controversy with the text messages. What do you make of that and what could happen on a day like today where, to your point, it matters so much who goes to vote on Election Day, but it's record early voting?
Yeah, if I'm being frank, I think the Attorney General's race is the best shot Republicans have to make a clear determination as to who leads the party moving forward in the future. We've seen Winsome Sears admittedly dragging behind double digits over the last few weeks. It really hasn't changed since August of this year. The polls have just kind of shored up amongst undecideds and padded both sides equally. So ultimately, I'm interested to see how well the Republican Attorney General candidate does. The early voting totals will probably split obviously along party lines, and I'm not quite convinced that the Democrats are going to break away from Jones in the Attorney General's race. I think that maybe some of the independents are going to be persuaded accordingly, but ultimately at the top of the ballot, I think we're going to see a real power struggle. As I just said, Winsome Sears and the lieutenant governor have been dragging behind over the last few weeks. But if Republicans have a shock showing, something that we had in the last election whenever they propelled Glenn Youngkin to the forefront during a lot of the education battles across the state, then they will be able to have that advantage and defeat the polls.
Yeah, and to that point, in the Commonwealth, it's a 4-year term. So if it does go Democratic, at least for the gubernatorial candidate, Miyares, that could be a stepping stone there for the executive position in 4 years. A toss-up here as to what that future looks like and what today looks like for Jason Miyares. But you bring up Donald Trump and you say that you don't think it's a referendum on the White House and the administration. And then you've got a president who didn't really endorse Winsome Earl Sears, only to say that she's an excellent candidate, but not an explicit endorsement. You've got former President Barack Obama out there stumping for Spanberger for the candidate in New Jersey. What do you make of kind of the lukewarm response from the White House as it relates to Virginia?
Well, New Jersey is a blue state. Virginia is a purple state, and he purposefully did not get involved, I think, in this race because he knew that if he did directly, it would be a referendum on him, or at least be perceived as a referendum on him. I think that he reads polls very well. He wants to add to his win tally. He wants to make sure he's backing candidates who aren't going to drag him down if they don't perform very well in an upcoming election. So I think in addition to that, even on this network, Winsome Sears a few years ago told Donald Trump he should walk off the stage, which prompted a response from the president saying that I never felt comfortable with her. So there's been bad blood with her for a long period of time. I think he was gracious in even saying that the Republican candidate, not even mentioning her name, should do better than the Democrat candidate. But there is that element of loyalty, something that he deeply values. And I don't think he felt that Winsome had his back. And now I think it's reciprocating. All
right, we'll see what happens tonight. And Luke, we'll see you later on here at Fox 5. We appreciate your analysis here on the DMV Zone. Of course, we've got your Election Day coverage kicking off at 7 p.m. tonight with coverage running all night long on Fox 5 and Fox Local. Scan that QR code. That app is free.